Welcome back, everybody. In today's video we're going to be looking at a really cool game, an unknown game called Crunch Element. Now this thing is really cool because you've got an open world that is dynamically generated, so you get different maps, different kind of basically loadouts and scenarios that you're able to create, and of course it's set entirely in VR. You've got this really cool hub section which is very much reminiscent of the Splinter Cell hubs from the most recent title from the Splinter Cell series. Of course, you've got customization in terms of the kinds of weapons you've got, and there's a pretty decent selection of guns in here to choose from, but again, the game is in early access, so things are still pretty much subject to change. Now, the biggest thing about this game, of course, aside from the fact that all the controls feel really fluid, is the fact that you have dynamically generated maps, dynamically generated terrain, etc., so you're never going to be quite in the same environment time and time again. Now, in here, I'm just going to take a look at one of the training sections here. And this transport is how you get to and from your various missions as you go from the hub to the different sections in the game. Now, what I do want to have you guys pay some attention to is the kinds of firearms that are available in here. So there are certain DMRs that we have in here. There is a submachine gun. You've got a Desert Eagle pistol. You've also got what looks like a Walther PPK. I'm not 100% sure if I'm saying those names correctly, but either way, this is kind of what you've got in here. Now, the reload animations are really solid, the way that you do them, and everything feels quite good. The amount of kind of audio work that's gone into this is also quite spectacular. And I'm not going to show it because I'm probably going to get dinged by the various algorithms on YouTube for copyrighted audio streams, but suffice it to say that when you shoot inside versus outside, there is a very noticeable difference in the reverb of the audio quality, and this applies across all the weapons that you have. Again, reloads feel solid, the action on the weapons feels very solid as well. Fantastic audio work on the pistol sounds too, so all of these sound really good. Of course, you've also got your selection of, AR-15 versus AK platforms on here. There's a little bit more variation to the AR platform than the AK one, but as you can see, another party trick that this game has is, of course, the destructible environment, destructible elements, etc. You can blow apart basically chunks in walls. Wood gets splintered. Boxes can fracture. Now, the box part is not 100% implemented just yet, but again, the game is in early access, so there's still quite a few things to work out at this point in time. Now, as you can see, also the weapon handling model is pretty good. You have a lot more stability to shooting the weapons once you put the second hand on the grip. So this is very similar to if you've played Contractors VR, or if you've played games like Firewall Zero Hour on the PlayStation VR. This will be pretty familiar to you, or even Boneworks, a more recent title that implements a very similar strategy to this particular game. Again, there is quite a few things that you're able to do in terms of the different ways that you're able to blow stuff apart. You do also have a various number of grenades at your disposal, as well as what looks like a breaching charge that you can implement whenever you want, basically. You start out with one typically, but in this sandbox environment, as you can see, there are quite a few of them, and you can use them pretty much on any surface, but there are some that won't stick to. Again, probably a limitation of the early access nature of the game. But as you can see, procedural destruction, very, very well done. It kind of reminds me, honestly, of Rainbow Six Siege. There's quite a few things happening here. Again, there is still a lot of work to be done, but I think at this stage, this is a game that not too many people I've seen talk about at this point in time. But, in my opinion, this has the potential to be one of the greats. Certainly, with the generated environments that are made in real time, this is going to be a game changer for this title, and I think definitely amongst the other VR titles that are available out there today. Certainly this title in particular is doing things in terms of destruction quite well. I've been in a bit of a kind of destruction binge in video games. I will have more videos coming on this soon, but it's just interesting to see it in VR kind of for the first time. Because even though, titles like Boneworks and Half-Life Alyx have certain parts of the environment that are, predetermined to be destructible. This in particular actually shows you walls. It shows you different kind of parts of the terrain that can be blown apart, which is all really neat, and it makes for a very tactical experience. Now, something I haven't come across, because again the game is not particularly popular just yet, is other players, but this is a multiplayer title, which means that there will be other people playing with you. One of the main game modes at this point in time is a game mode where you basically have to go and defuse bombs with a couple of buddies. And the buddy system definitely works, because while you can do it yourself, it's certainly a lot more difficult to control choke points on the bombs in order to not have basically the enemy AI come in and take you out. Now, I'm not sure if there is PvP included in this game. However, it would be interesting to see how that works out, because I would imagine it'd be a lot of fun playing defenders versus folks that are on the offensive. So it would be very much like Siege in that regard. Again, as you can see, not all parts of the terrain here are something that can be blown up, and even though you can place it on other objects, they don't necessarily get torn apart either. But let's take a look at some more gameplay from within the game itself, outside of the sandbox environment, so we can see exactly what's happening. So again, as you can see, the idea in here is that you would be able to place a charge, wait for it to blow up. At this point, you have an opening to get inside the compound or to breach certain sections that would otherwise be heavily guarded. You've also got grenades that you can also use to do a certain amount of destruction as well, although these are meant primarily to be anti-personnel. As it stands, so they don't seem to do as much damage specifically against the walls in the game as I have discovered thus far. Although again, given that this is still early access, that may be subject to change. We'll just have to wait and see. But again, currently this is just not something that appears to be supported, or potentially might be doing something wrong. But as it stands, the primary focus here is the gunplay mechanics and the ability to destroy stuff. So you'll be able to breach basically by using your weapon and shooting out the different barricades. Now, you can also just basically hit them with your gun, and they will also fall apart after you've shot it a couple of times, so that'll help save on ammo should you need to be a little bit more careful with conserving bullets. Now, at this point in time, I don't think that you have limited amount of ammunition. It looks rather like to be unlimited in this current state of the title. But again, you can see the enemy AI in here are attacking the player, and generally they're pretty good. I'm pretty terrible at reloading in this title, so I have a tendency to not do so well. And your health is currently limited. I don't see that they have any kind of provisions for actually healing yourself at this point in time. Although again, given that this is still progressing, it may be that there will be different kind of classes that you can play as, with some being medics in your group to help you heal as the mission progresses. However, at this time, this is not something that has been implemented, and they're just still working through a couple of the different kinks. But as it stands, the game so far feels pretty fabulous. Again, the gunplay is fantastic, but not everything is destructible quite yet. However, I feel like they are in a good spot already as it stands, with just the limited interactions between the walls being able to be blown up and between the various kind of state that the buildings can be blown up into, which is generally not something that you see in too many titles nowadays. I would even say that this rivals some of the Battlefield games in terms of the sort of destruction level. I would say pretty comparable to something like Battlefield 3 in terms of the building destruction that you can see on display in this title. And again, you can see not everything blows apart all the parts of the world, although explosive barrels seem to do more damage than grenades to walls at this particular junction in time. However, I think that this is something that's got the aesthetics to really make it stand out. It's got a really interesting mix between sort of the graphics of a kind of cel-shaded game and sort of an almost Minecraft-esque kind of blocky nature to it, but it looks really cool. I think it plays well to the aesthetics of the game overall, and I find that in general it helps the title really kind of stand out on its own amongst the other VR titles out there. So hopefully this lets you guys know how the game looks and how it's progressing, and I think you guys should check this out. So again, game is called Crunch Element. Check it out on Steam. It supports a number of different VR headsets and should get you through the weekend or what have you, just to have a little bit of more fun in the general game world that they've created here. So stick around for my next game, and I'll see you guys later.